Welcome to Running the Table, the podcast where we run through everything on the table in the world of college basketball. Excuse the mess, excuse the lack of notes. We're traveling again, and we're just going to kind of get right into this one. Michigan Wolverines, number one team in the country, come into West Lafayette to a ruckus Mackey Arena. And unfortunately, they not only talk the talk, but they walk the walk. This one ends in a final score of Michigan 91, Purdue 80. There's a lot of different things about this game, a lot of things that went well, a lot of things that went poorly. And there's not going to be a ton of structure to this. This is just going to be a lot of my general thoughts from the game. Starting off with the number one Wolverines, they're tough. They're a tough team. Watching their poise, their composure throughout the course of this game in Mackey was extremely impressive. Not that they didn't slip up at times, not that they, didn't allow for Purdue to make some little runs and obviously get a lot more points in the second half than the first. But anytime Purdue swung, Michigan had a combo waiting for him right back. And that really was the story of this game down the stretch. Um, but we'll get into all of this over the course of the game. I want to do a little bit of box score watching to start off, just because some of the things that I've seen from this, obviously watching the game live and then coming back and looking at how things turned out, just kind of blow my mind. First off, you've got four out of your five starters in double figures, and the only one that doesn't, Namari Burnett, only shoots the ball four times, 2 for 4. Um, Yaxel Lendeborg, it was not an A-plus game from him necessarily, but he did everything that he needed to do for the way that Purdue wanted to play him. They wanted to force him to be a jump shooter. They wanted to take away his size advantage inside. And yes, he did get a layup here or there when he got Braden switched onto him, but he went 3 for 7 from three. The big thing for him is, if he can make him honest from the outside, what can you do? He ends up with 13 points, 5 of 12 shooting, 3 for 7 from three, only two rebounds, but they're rebounding everywhere else. 7 assists though. So he may not have been a dominant scorer, but he made the right decision a lot. And also casually a steal, two blocks, and three turnovers. But he was pretty nasty. And looking at him at the three, there's a reason why this team is so unbelievably difficult to guard, because who has a small forward, starting or bench, or who has anybody around the size of 6'8" or 6'9" who can move and stay with the Axel Lendeborg physically? That is an insanely tough match, and it proved to be tough even if he wasn't, a far and away scorer in this one. Um, but secondly, you got Morez Johnson with 12 points of his own, 3 for 7. Honestly, much more inefficient than he usually is. He's like a 68% shooter from the floor or something like that, somewhere around 70%. So we made him miss a fair amount. And he went 6 for 9 from the free throw line, 11 rebounds, 2 assists, two turnovers. Um, he was not as dominant as he certainly could have. He got a lot of his points from the free throw line, and a lot of it was because of the fact he got four offensive rebounds. And four of those 11 being offensive allowed him to get a couple more shots up, get fouled underneath the basket. I've seen him look better. I've seen him look worse. But the big thing for all of these guys is they played up in sort of the top third of how they're capable. They played a B plus game or greater pretty much across the board. And it with a team with this much talent and this much depth, that's all you really need. Speaking of B or B plus game or better, Adai Mara, 10 points on just 4 of 6 shooting, 2 for 3 from the free throw line for a guy that shoots like 50% from the free throw line, 11 rebounds, 3 assists, two blocks, two turnovers, and 5 of his rebounds were offensive. Um, he was an insanely hard match. Even if we had Jacobson on the floor, he's stronger, he's more agile, more coordinated than Jacobson. It's kind of what we hope Jacobson can get to. Jacobson's not there yet. And if we try to put someone shorter on him, he went right over Clough, around Clough, drawing fouls, things of that nature. And obviously his shot blocking was insane. It's so hard. Even if he's not getting the block, he deters so much and just changes shots. There was multiple times where TKR tried to get a shot over him, which, for the love of all things, holy Trey Kaufman-Renn, you don't need to try to prove that you're this elite scorer by putting your shoulder into 7'4" and trying to hook shot over it. Sometimes you can just make the kick out, especially when you got guys open on the 3-point line. But that's something entirely else. But Mara was great. I think the one time that I think Mara truly got bested was a fantastic play by Omer Meyer, and I'll talk about him more later, where Omer makes a play on the perimeter and drives into the lane and just gets this nasty floater that I've never seen him attempt right over the outstretched hands of 7'4" with like a 7'6" or 7'8" reach, something diabolical like that. But he was great. Speaking of great, arguably their best player in totality, despite some of the turnovers, was Elliot Cadeau. And that was not on my bingo sheet. 17 points, 6 for 12 shooting, 3 for 5 from three. Now, he is a 40% three-point shooter, so, I can't be that surprised that he made some threes, but at least two of those three that I can remember, he made with a hand directly in his face. He was very, very confident. He added on 4 rebounds, 7 assists, a steal, a block, and 4 turnovers. That's the one thing that kind of consistently plagues him, is turning the ball over. But his shot making, he shot 50% from the floor, 60% from three. You can't ask for much more from arguably who is typically your third, fourth scoring option. Um, and in a battle of point guards, he may not have outscored Braden because of all the points that Braden got in the second half, but he was still incredible. Um, and there was definitely some deflating shots that he made throughout the course of the game, where Purdue's trying to work their way back in, and he just steps into one and buries it, or he drove the lane multiple times and quick little floaters, money. It wasn't even like it bounced around the rim and knocked in. It was pure all the way. So I tip my cap to him. That was impressive. That was not one of the ways that I thought Purdue would get beat in this game. And the other starter, Namari Burnett, I mentioned, is the one that didn't get into double figures. 5 points, 2 of 4 shooting, 1 for 3 from three, 3 rebounds, 2 assists, a steal, and a turnover. All in all, not horrible for 17 minutes. Obviously, you want a little bit more, but the opportunities just weren't there for him. They were there for everyone else, and he made as kind of the most that he could out of his 17 minutes, other than shooting perfectly. But their bench, Michigan's bench, holy depth. We There's been a lot of talk in the past about just how deep this team is. It cannot be overstated. This bench scored. They go 9 deep. You got Will Cheddar coming off the bench for just 7 minutes, LJ Kason for 18, Roddy Gale for 17, and Trey McKinney for 21. These guys combined for 28 plus 6, 34 points. Their bench had 34 of their 91 points on insanely efficient shooting, too. They were 6 for 7 from three across those four guys. You had 1 for 1 for Cheddar, Kason, and Roddy Gale. And Trey McKinney just comes off the bench spraying, goes 3 for 4. They shoot 8 for 8 from the free throw line between those guys. That's nasty. You have one of the best, most versatile starting lineups, and then you can go to your bench and they just drop 30 casually. Once those guys were hitting across the board, that's when I knew that Purdue was in serious trouble, kind of no matter what we did, no matter what we changed. That was kind of the eye opener for me. But the Stats as a team, they didn't shoot entirely lights out from two. They were 30 for 57, good for 53%. That's still a good percentage. I mean, obviously, it ended up with them with 91 points, so you can't complain about that. But the nail in the coffin, the was not on my bingo sheet from a mile away, was 57% from three. They were 13 for 23 from 3-point range. There was pretty much no way that Purdue was going to be able to counter everything that Michigan likes to do, and them shooting 50+% from three on 23 attempts. I had said to a couple of friends, if Purdue was going to win this game, I was like, we need like 13 threes. Well, instead, that's what Michigan got. And on the other hand, we only got 8 and didn't shoot very well from three. We'll talk about that later. But when it comes to the 3-point percentage, there is a stat that I saw somebody collect that I have to bring up about Purdue's play, Purdue's defense, despite being still the 26th ranked team in defensive efficiency on Ken Palm, even after this game. Teams shoot not way better, shoot significantly better, typically, for their 3-point average in terms of percentage against Purdue, more than anyone else. What I mean by that, when teams play Purdue, this is courtesy of Denders on Threads, where I actually found this, credit to him. When teams play Purdue, their 3-point percentage jumps over their season average for Michigan plus 20%, Illinois plus 11%, Indiana plus 8%, Penn State plus 8%, UCLA plus 8%, Iowa State plus 7%. And he ends, this is not a coincidence. And unfortunately, I agree. Michigan may not be a star-studded 3-point shooting team, but we gave them open looks. We gave them open looks on countless opportunities, corner threes, rebound kickouts, swings, drive into the paint, dish out. Lendeborg had a great one where he ended up with a pass in the center of the lane, immediately kicks it at the corner. Purdue gives up open threes because of our rotations, because of the way that we play defense and we double and we try to sort of gamble for turnovers at times. And teams make us pay. Some teams, not everybody, but certainly good teams. A lot of good teams have. You see a lot of teams on those lists, even Penn State, which I would not consider a good team. They made us pay in that regard. That's a problem. And that is something that I will look when things come to play out in the NCAA tournament and some of these matchups. I will look at some of these teams and I will consider that aspect when I think about potential performances in some of these games. But that was pretty wild to me. 39 rebounds as a team, 24 assists on 30 made shots for Michigan. That's a stat that I usually highlight for Purdue. Purdue is an amazing assist team, amazing playmaking, ball sharing team. It was Michigan's game in this one. They looked incredible in that facet. They moved the ball exactly where it needed to go. They still turned the ball over. They ended up with 14 turnovers, which is exactly what Purdue needed to do to try to get some success. And I think we did, especially in the second half. But it was the other aspects of everything that killed them. And speaking of some of those aspects, we'll go down to some of Purdue's stats now. The biggest thing I want to highlight is our two, quite frankly, we'll go to our three leading scorers and various aspects of their play that I think were not recipes for success. Trey Kaufman-Renn, leading scorer, 27 points, his highest point total of the season, topping his 23 that he had a little while back on 12 of 26 shooting, 0 for 2 from 3, 3 for 3 from the free throw line, 12 rebounds, and nothing else. It was good to see some true vintage Trey in these games in terms of how he just took it to Michigan State. Michigan State, we got them later, soon, which catch me and Mackey for that one. Against Michigan, it was great to see him attack the defense again. It was great to see him with that confidence in his post moves to say, I don't really care who's behind me. If you're gonna leave me one-on-one, I'm gonna go down there, I'm gonna make a move, and I'm gonna get a pretty damn good shot off. He shot under 50%. And again, credit to Michigan is they were going to make it tough, and they did make it tough, and he still made some amazing moves to get some of those baskets. But when I saw Purdue go into this strategy, I went, oh no, it's the national championship all over again. Dare you to beat us from two, because we'll just answer with three on the other end. And whenever you don't make those two, which we're going to make insanely difficult on you, good luck. And we did not get very good looks from three. We did not shoot the ball well from three because they decided that they wanted to put the pressure on us on the outside. They would not double in the post, and they said, beat us. Now, we still had 48 points in the second half with that strategy because we started hitting some threes down the stretch. We started getting the ball moving a little bit more and choosing to attack ball screens, and Braden pulling up for threes off of some of the drop coverage instead of trying to navigate the lane and making some of those passes, which were not working out well for him. Um, but we were never going to win this game out of the post. And that's the thing that I realized quickly as this game was progressing. I'm really glad to see Trey with that type of confidence on the offensive end and still rebound the ball well. Still was our best rebounder by a country mile. 12 rebounds from him. Nobody else got more than four, but that's not how you beat the number one defense in the country. It's not how you beat the number four offense in the country. They're going to be able to outscore us unless they had a really bad shooting night, if this was our strategy, unfortunately. Um, Oscar Clough, CJ Cox, both 1 for 4 from the floor. CJ, all of his shots being from three. Um, Not Clough's best game by a long shot, but also exactly what I expected in a lot of ways, especially on the offensive end at least, against this Michigan frontcourt. I did not see him having much success against the physicality and the shot blocking and the size that Michigan has down low. The biggest thing for him was I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about that flagrant call. So, that play in a nutshell, the shot goes up, Clough's crashing the boards, Jack Benter is crashing the boards, Jack knocks his defender into Clough, who was battling for the board. They're on the ground. Clough tries to get up. Nothing is called at the time. At the next dead ball, Michigan challenges the previous play, looking for a flagrant one. All of us watching the game, and I'm sure in the stadium, are so confused as to what is happening. Even as they call it, I was so confused. A leg clamp? They go back and show the replay, and as Clough is trying to get up off the ground, his knees start coming together, and it pinches in on the Michigan player's leg that was standing in between him. I understand what they think they are calling. I understand that they think that this is a retaliation. And going to be probably not the first and probably not the last to tell you that that is not Oscar Clough. That is not his personality. That's not his style. I don't care if he gets knocked to the ground. He had Aaron Bradshaw try to swing on him earlier this season, in which he gave zero reaction. He did not try to leg clamp him. As a set 6'11", 7 foot tall man trying to get up off of his ass off the floor, his knees came together as he tried to get his feet underneath him, and there just happened to be a leg there. That one was brutal because Purdue ends up, instead of getting the ball going down the floor, instead, Michigan gets free throws and the ball back. And this is in a time where Purdue was trying to fight for coming back in this game. Let me see, where was the flagrant? Yeah, so this foul came with 9:37 to go in the first half, and Purdue was down 10 at this point. And instead of getting the ball and going back, they hand it to Michigan, who they sinked 2 free throws to put them up 12 and get the ball back, and Will Cheddar makes a three to put Purdue down 15 instead of Purdue having the ball trying to cut this back to single digits at the time. That one felt big to me, um, because that obviously pissed off everyone in the arena. It confused all of the players and everybody who was watching this game, and it allowed Michigan to continue to build um, on an already incredible first half for them instead of Purdue being able to, stifle it a little bit. But regardless, moving to the rest of the starting lineup, Braden Smith, 0 first half points. Not ever going to be a recipe for success for Purdue. He ends up with 20 in the second half alone, but on 4 of 13 shooting, 2 for 6 from three. Those threes came pretty late. He was 10 for 10 from the free throw line. That was the reason why he was able to end up with 20. 1 rebound, 6 assists, 4 steals, and 3 turnovers. The turnovers were brutal. There was a couple ones like that ball screen where he just yoinked it right over Trey's head. Um, as well as some other ones that just felt particularly deflating in a game where every possession felt like it counted more than ever before. So it was great to see him getting more involved in the second half, but we can't have another game where Braden disappears in the first half like he did against Iowa, like he did in this one. We can't have it, especially not down the stretch against great teams, not in the Big Ten tournament, not in the NCAA tournament. Um, so we'll have to figure out what it takes to get him going early. Um, but other than that, the four steals were great. He was an electric defensive presence, trying to go pickpockets and diving on the floor all over the place. That is always going to be something that he takes pride in and that he truly leads Purdue in and gets other people motivated to do the same because of his energy and dedication to the defensive side of the ball. Even if he's not always the best on-ball defender, his effort and energy is always going to be there. Um, but yeah, we needed a superstar game out of Braden. We didn't get it. 20 points, 6 assists is solid. It's good. But when you take the context of it as to what those 20 points really were and what that first half was, and his role in Purdue ending up down as much as they did after that 16-0 run that Michigan went on starting at like the 11-minute mark. Um, but yeah, possibly more confusing or more just shake your head at was Fletcher Loyer's performance. Now he had 11 points on 3 of 6 shooting, 2 for 5 from three, 3 for 3 from the free throw line, 4 rebounds, an assist, a steal, and a turnover. But 2 out of those 3 3-point misses, 2 out of those 5 3-pointers for him were brutal air balls. And I was so puzzled when those happened. Moving too fast, trying to get the shot off for the shot. I think it's exactly what was wrong with him in the slump. This was just exaggerated with, just kind of the way the game was. Um, and they came at key moments too. Purdue getting stops or getting steals in transition. He just pulls up, whether it was someone in his face or whether or not he was 5 feet behind the line, and just nowhere close. That was tough. It was tough to watch. And it was frustrating to watch because in some of those situations, it did not feel like the right shot at the time. And I get that those type of shots, running down the court in transition, him catching quick fire shoot, that's still his thing. It didn't look like his thing there. Um, and I'll quickly run through the bench here before talking about some more general team stuff. Um, Daniel Jacobson, 14 minutes, 2 points, 1 for 4 from the floor, only 3 rebounds, but he did get 2 blocks. And 2 of those rebounds were offensive rebounds for him. He tried. And again, I want to continue giving him grace. This was just going to be an incredibly tough matchup for him against the one other person in the league and potentially in the country that is as tall as him and more athletic and more coordinated and stronger. And obviously you got to tip your cap off to a Dane Mara, but yeah, he got pushed around. Um, in the words of me texting my friend James about some of these performances of Jacobson, he got bitched. That's the problem. That's what he's going to have to learn in this offseason is how to utilize his center of gravity, how to build more strength, how to just gain that coordination factor of knowing when to hit, knowing how to hit, knowing how to stay grounded in these moments when guys that are potentially heavier than him try to bump him because right now he gets thrown off at every spot. But he tried, he battled. I at least appreciated his fight. Obviously, the shot blocking was something that we needed in this game. So him getting 2 blocks was good to see. Omer Meyer, best game of the year for him. I would say by far, this is the best and most confident Omer Meyer we saw. I saw multiple plays throughout the course of this game, especially in the first half when Braden got essentially benched because of the way he was playing, where Omer confidently led the offense. He got to his spots. He pulled up for jumpers. He hits 2 threes. I already mentioned that floater over Mara. He I think we're seeing flashes of the ascension of Omer Meyer. And I'm not sure if it'll really happen or continue to happen through the course of the rest of this year, but it makes me excited for his future because he took on this challenge and he took it personally. Um, he battled and he looked so under control, so much more under control than most of Purdue's players in this game, quite frankly. Um, Jack Benter, 9 minutes, 3 points, 1 for 4 from the floor, all of them being threes. Those threes came late. He really didn't get many minutes, mainly because we had to play TKR so much because he was our only form of offense. So he really, Benter only ended up with 2 rebounds. I think I would have liked to see him at the three a little bit more. Obviously, I think we played him a little bit there towards the end for size and shooting and defense and rebounding. But I think that he was probably the most underutilized player in this game when it came to the matchup side of things. I think we could have used him on Yaxel. You at least can match 6'9" with 6'6" with roughly the same amount of athleticism. I mean, Yaxel's an athletic freak, but Benter is also very, very athletic for his size at 6'6" and has the strength to, at least push with him and the rebounding that we so desperately needed. So I'm definitely disappointed we didn't get to see more of him. Jakari Harris plays 16 minutes, the most points off the bench. Sorry, most minutes off the bench. 2 points, 1 and 2 from the floor, 0 for 1 from three, a rebound, an assist, but 3 steals. So his presence was on the defensive end, which obviously we needed. We needed his ball pressure, and he got a great steal off of Yaxel and got, I believe those were his 2 points was that transition layup. Um, so realistically, we would have liked a little bit more out of our bench, especially when we're battling a bench as confident and as lethal as Michigan's. We just unfortunately didn't really get it. But as a whole, Purdue shoots 39% from the floor, 27 of 69. So the craziest thing is we had 12 more shots than they did. 12 more shots. And in a game where you wanted it to be a possession game, Purdue won that. And that I think is the reason why the final score shows that we had a chance. It's why it shows that we were able to cut it to 8 with, a minute and a half to go. Um, we put ourselves in certain places to succeed, especially through the second half of that game. But the problem is we dug ourselves too big of a hole. Um, but for them to shoot 53% and 57% and Purdue to shoot 39% and 31%, and for us to be able to say, yeah, if we just knock down a couple more shots or we get a couple of more of those defensive rebounds in the first half that fell their way, that ended up as kickouts and threes, that we probably win this game, it's pretty nuts. And I think it does speak to the fact that Purdue isn't worlds away from Michigan. There's a reason why Purdue's a top 10 team in the country, and I still very much wholeheartedly believe that we are. And we have the talent and we have the fight, but I will also be the first one to say we got outclassed in this one. Michigan at their best is in a class of their own, and that is why they're the national title favorites. That's why a lot of people will pick them, and that's probably why they are poised for a very deep run, unless they have, their one random slip-up game where threes don't fall and turnovers plague them. That's, I think, the only thing that unravels this team. But back to Purdue. The crazy thing that I didn't mention from both teams is the free throw shooting. There was a ton of free throws in this game. This game went on forever because of it. 17 fouls apiece for each. A lot of shooting fouls, but also a lot of bonus and bonus plus double bonus in the second half, especially. Michigan goes 18 for 23 for 78%. Purdue went 18 for 20, good for 90%. By far our best free throw shooting performance of the year, both in volume and in percentage, which was great to see. And it was, again, the only reason why we were able to kind of keep up with some of the scoring at various times. But the 3 for 3 from TKR, obviously Clough was both of those misses. He was 2 for 4. So perfect across the board everywhere else, which was literally just 10 for 10 from Braden, 3 for 3 from Fletcher. Bench did not get a single free throw. But yeah, there was a lot of free throws in this game. Rebounding battle. Michigan won that 39-31, but Purdue won the offensive rebounding battle. I repeat, Purdue won the offensive rebounding battle against the tallest and the best offensive rebounding team in the country, who murdered them on the offensive rebounds or offensive boards in the first half. And that was, just nuts to me, really. Um, but yeah, on the defensive rebounding side, they beat us 26 to 17. And obviously those lack of defensive rebounds in the first half killed us in that facet. But the fact that we had 14 offensive rebounds um, was crazy to me, and 7 of those came from TKR. He was once again a monster on the glass, and we needed that in this one, and we need that in every other game for the entire rest of the season. That needs to be his legacy going out. Um, he's he said he's been watching those Dennis Rodman highlights before the game, and maybe it's showing there a little bit with the way he's rebounding the basketball. And we need every bit of that. But um, yeah, knowing that we didn't win the rebounding battle, I mean, you don't win the shooting percentage battle on either one. You don't win the rebounding battle. There's not many other ways you can win the game there. But one of the ways you can make a dent, and we did, was with turnovers. We only had 6 turnovers. They had 14. That led to 22 points off turnovers for Purdue, just to Michigan's 12. So 10 more points off of turnovers. Those didn't necessarily come in the form of fast break points because they had 10 fast break points. We only had 9. Um, but but yeah, those turnovers were crucial, and that's the one thing that can unravel Michigan at various times. So they turn over the ball a lot. They're not super careful with it. They move the ball fast, and sometimes it looks magical. There were times in that first half where their ball movement looked crisp, on time, speedy as all hell, and Purdue looked like they were just spinning in circles. But in the second half, that ended up, with a lot more turnovers. Um, so yeah, I mean, Purdue battled, and not only did Purdue battle, but for, you know, whatever few of my watchers or listeners that are the Purdue faithful that filled out Mackey Arena in this game, hats off to you. The environment was palpable even through the TV. I'm sitting here in Kentucky, and I could feel Mackey shaking through the broadcast. It was a fantastic sight to see, and I hope it's just right back up there for this Friday with Indiana coming to town. Um, but it was amazing to see, and I can't imagine what it was like to be a part of an environment like that. I certainly wish that I would have been able to, but kind of some of my closing thoughts here. Obviously, not nearly as put together as some of my other recaps, but this one just kind of felt like a good recap to sit back and just hats off to Michigan. They are an incredible team. I'm nowhere near as upset about, this game and this loss as some of the other ones that Purdue lost, because it did not feel like Purdue beat themselves. Michigan beat us. They did. And there's a reason why they're the number one team in the country. And one of the most, physically dominant teams ever across the board. So hats off to them. They're going to have some tough games still here down the stretch, and we'll see if they continue to peak at the right time. They're obviously going to be insanely difficult to match up with anybody that comes across their way. We could definitely see a first round matchup where Michigan wins another game by 40 or 50. But we could also see them slip up, and that's one of the tough things about being a top seed and playing so well all year is, sometimes that means you don't get tested quite as much, and you don't get, the adversity of being down. Now, Michigan's been down in some of these games. I mean, shoot, they were down like 12 to Northwestern in the first half recently, but I'll just keep rambling if I don't wrap this up. Um, Most likely the Big Ten regular season championship goes to them. I don't see them dropping enough games for Illinois to be able to sneak it out. And obviously, this put the nail in the coffin for Purdue's chances and Purdue's hopes. So hats off to them. Hats off to Dusty May. As much as I strongly dislike this team and this university, with the way that they play and the way that they carry themselves sometimes, you gotta have hats off to them in this performance. For Purdue, we got to regroup. We'll do some amount of analysis, but it's got to be a fast turnaround, because coming up next for us is Friday night. The Indiana Hoosiers come into Mackey Arena, and we need to be just as loud, if not louder, just as motivated, if not more, to send this team home packing and give this senior class one final win against our rivals. before it's all said and done for them. And I know that they will be motivated. The question is whether or not that shows up on the court because it didn't show up on the court last time. And I don't want to make another one of those recaps right after that game. So it's going to be tough. Purdue, I still believe in this team wholeheartedly. I still believe that we can make a deep, deep run with the way that this team plays and can play. But we ran into a team that we match up against quite horribly, to be honest. And not many teams match up remotely well against Michigan anyway. But for Purdue's style of play and roster, it was a bit of a horrible matchup, and we made the most out of it in some parts. So best of luck to both of these teams. Not really Michigan. Who am I kidding? Um, but we've got a couple games left, a couple tune-ups heading into the Big Ten tournament and into the NCAA tournament, and I'm going to be very, very excited to see, just how all of this ends. But if you want more from us, like, comment, and subscribe. Until next time, I'm out.